Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Lift and Shift podcast. I'm your host, Giselle Colonzo Douglas, and this is the place where we talk to amazing, phenomenal women who are shifting higher in their careers and various spheres of influence. But the best thing about them is that they are lifting others as they climb. I'm very excited about this inaugural season of the Lift and Shift podcast and to have as my very first guest Renee C. Hill, Esquire. Renee is very near and dear to my heart. When I graduated from law school, she served as a mentor to me to help me navigate becoming a criminal defense attorney, learning how to be a zealous advocate for my clients. The best thing that I learned from you, Renee, is to always be prepared, and I never forgot that. Renee is a prominent attorney, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about her. But I admire her not only for her work ethic, her success, but she's a phenomenal mom, which has always been an inspiration to me. So please welcome Renee. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode.
Thank you so much for having me, Giselle. This is an honor for me to be here with you, your first guest. I am absolutely so very proud of you, and I love this new experience for you. So I thank you for having me here this morning.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. So, Renee, you've been practicing criminal defense law for 25 years. You don't look it by any means, okay? But since 1992, when you joined the law offices of Murray Richmond. So, I'm just curious, when you were dreaming about becoming a lawyer as a little girl, did you think criminal defense, or how did that become your area of expertise?
Honestly, and actually now it's like 30 years, and I still can't even understand that number. But when I was younger and thinking about becoming an attorney, I never thought about criminal law. In fact,
Ooh.
criminal law was like almost I don't want to say taboo, but it was the thing that I said I don't want to do criminal law. I thought I wanted to do initially environmental protection law. I thought maybe I would go work for Pepsi Cola or some sort of products liability type situation. So I
Okay.
kept thinking Coca Cola, Pepsi Cola, somewhere along those lines. And, as I progressed and went throughout law school, I started to develop a like, not even a love for criminal law, because I still thought that that was not the thing for me. And what I always encourage other people to do, I started getting involved with different internships to try to figure out what I like and what I don't like. And that's what I think internships really are great for because they definitely let you know what you don't like. So I interned at the Environmental Protection Agency in
Hmm.
Lower Manhattan, and I hated it. I
Oh,
absolutely hated it. And I said, I don't want to do this. At least I know now I don't want to do this. And so I had a few other internships along the way and ultimately ended up interning in the Bronx District Attorney's Office for 2 semesters. And that's where I began to find my love for criminal law. But I also knew that I didn't want to be a prosecutor, that I wanted to be a defense attorney.
okay. So you joined the law offices of Murray Richmond, and you say that this is where you honed your trial skills and your courtroom presence. And I've seen you in action. And I don't know if you remember, but the first 3 years you and I worked together, you didn't lose not one a case. And I was always so impressed by that. So, what was your initial experience being kind of thrown in and learning how to navigate that criminal justice space?
Yes. So that was an experience in and of itself, and everything usually is. But I was very shy, believe it or not. Through college and through law school, I was very shy, and even as a child. So my mom always was trying to push me. You have to speak up, Renee. You have to speak up for yourself, and I would just kind of cower back. So because of my mother, I interned or did some volunteer work with a senator's office in the Bronx after I had graduated from law school, and I was uh, waiting for the bar results to come out. So I started to do some volunteer work with this senator, and he introduced me to Murray Richmond.
Hmm.
So Murray takes me under his wing, and he told my mom, "I'm going to make a lawyer out of her for you. Don't worry about it." So I started working with Murray, And I ultimately was offered a position with him. And then we just started. I mean, we hit the ground running, and I worked with Murray at a very, very good time where he had a number of cases ready for trial. And for the first 2 years of that practice, I was on trial. And I think we tried maybe 10 homicides and 2 assault cases. Um, with him, I second seated him on every single case. And then after that 2 year period, there was another case that I had worked on with him. It was a murder case. And I did the hearings with him. And then he said, "Okay, kid, you're going to try this case." And I started laughing. And I said, "Murray, I've been out of
As
law
he
school
does.
2 years, right?" I said, "I've been out of law school 2 years. Ha ha ha." And he said, "I'm not laughing. You're trying this case." And I was like, "What?" And yeah, he pushed me out. And I said, "Okay, fine. If I'm going to try this case, you can't come in the courtroom because I'm going to feel like my father's watching me. You're not allowed." And so he did not come into the courtroom. I learned later that he was sending spies into the courtroom to watch me and report back to him. And I learned that even the judge was reporting back to him, telling him how I was doing. Um, I lost a lot of weight during that trial because I was extremely nervous. I couldn't eat. And ultimately, the trial concluded. I got an acquittal. My head
Yes.
swelled because I said, "Oh, I can do anything now. I could do this." And it was that trial really that gave me my boost of confidence that I could really stand on my own 2 feet and that I could make a difference in the courtroom.
Awesome. Oh my God, Murray is a trip. So now you've done over 100 trials throughout New York City boroughs, Westchester County, Orange County. You are named Queen of the Bronx. I personally think you're queen of everything.
Oh,
um, and so what are some things that you've learned along the way, just in terms of even yourself? And I don't know if I would necessarily say that criminal defense is an arena where men are more prominent, but is that something that you saw, or how did you see yourself just as a woman, black woman, criminal defense attorney coming up and getting to the level of success that you have?
well, it was very intimidating in the beginning because it is a man's world still. Even in private practice, you're starting to see a lot more women in private practice, but you still don't see a tremendous amount of African American women, Black women in private practice. So I know that I am one of a few
Mm.
who practice criminal defense work in the private realm. And sometimes it can be very intimidating. I remember being on trial in a six defendant case, and I was so with six attorneys. I was the only female attorney, and I was the only Black attorney, and all of the other attorneys were white men.
Mm.
So it can be extremely intimidating still. Um, but I shined. I got up there and I did my thing. And it, even though it's intimidating and it's a little nerve wracking, once you get into a zone,
Mm-hmm.
I think, and you just continue to focus on your purpose of why you are there, just do your thing. And as long as you're prepared, you're going to move through. And I remember one time you and I were on trial. You were second seating me.
Uh-huh.
I can't remember which case it was, but I got up and I crossed the witness. And when I sat down, you leaned over and you whispered to me and you said, "I'm scared. I don't know who that person was that was up there." Do you remember? You said, "You just became so, I've never seen that person before." And I said, "What? Jill, what?" Because sometimes you don't even realize what you're doing or how you're doing. At least for me, when I zone in, that's all I see and that's all I'm doing. And then I sit back down, and to me, it's normal. But to you, you were like, "I've never seen that person before." Wow.
You know what? Because Renee, you really are like one of the kindest people that I know. You're very humble. You're very just nice, in the way that you treat everyone. But when you do get in the courtroom, there is something that comes over you. You become this tigress in the courtroom, very assertive, very confident. So you talk about how you were shy before. So how did you develop that persona?
Yeah, I think that the toughness was always within me,
Hmm.
and I really just it had to allow it to come out. And I really believe that it comes from the confidence in knowing what I truly believe in knowing what I'm trying to accomplish inside the courtroom. So once I do start my cross examinations of a witness, I know what my argument is, and I know what I want the jury to understand. And so I'm constantly talking to myself in my head, saying, listen, they're human just like you are. We are equal. And explain it to them like you would explain it to a friend who you're talking to. Because, when you talk to your girls, you might be a little more rah rah about the situation. You might have a little
Right.
bit more humor about it. And I think for jurors to respond to you, they want to feel the humanness in you. And if you're talking to them like a robot, like you've rehearsed everything, they're not going to open up and pay attention to you. But if you speak to them like you're having a conversation and you speak to them to make them understand the same way you would speak to a friend to make them understand something, I believe that it opens up a better path for them to be, at least welcoming and considering of your arguments, whether the argument is going to fly or not. They will at least be open enough to hear what you're saying before making a decision. So I think that helped me to step out of my shell, step out of
Hmm.
my shyness, and just doing it over and over again, right? Because it's practice. That's why
Right.
they call it the practice of law. So we are continuously practicing, and I always try to remain humble and not get ahead of myself, and not feel like, yeah, I am that person, I am that woman, I am that girl. Because if you get too far ahead of yourself, then you get cocky, and when you get cocky, you make mistakes. So I believe that it's always good to be nervous
Mm.
going into any situation, because the nervousness keeps you on your toes, and then you will be able to kind of take it easy, slow it down a little bit when you need to slow it down so that you can pay attention to everything.
So if a young person was to come to you and say, I have this dream, I have this desire to become a litigator, a criminal defense attorney, what kind of advice would you give them in terms of whether skill set they need to have, personality traits they need to develop, or as you did for me, preparation is the key?
Yes, well, definitely telling them to always be prepared, telling them to take advantage of different programs that are available to them. Some things that I didn't do, and I don't have many regrets. But if I had it to do all over again, I would take advantage of the programs that were available to me in college and even in high school,
Mm.
because I was so shy that I didn't get involved in all of the programs that were available, and in law school, I didn't go out for law review. I didn't even participate in mock trial because I was
Really?
so like into my shell, and just like, let me just get into class and learn what I have to learn and get out. But I've learned over the years that, participation is everything. And it helps so much. And the people that I meet along the way who did take advantage of those programs, I see how much it helped them. I see how much it helped to build confidence because they've been doing it. So although it might have been a mock situation, it still gave a foundation for them to now come out of the real world and do the same thing. So young people should take advantage of the programs that are available to them, take advantage of getting out, mixing and mingling and meeting people, and just being involved.
So I wanted to ask, so you go from this shy person, you develop your presence through the tutelage of Mr. Richmond. You get to a point of, you yourself have your own clients, and then the client base kind of changes a little bit because you're representing, high profile clients in the entertainment industry, radio
Mm-hmm.
personalities. How do you navigate that shift? Because now you also have the introduction of media, and you
Mm-hmm.
having to not only be lawyer, but have to kind of represent your client in the public sphere as well.
Yes. So over time, being in and out of the courtroom, and having the personality that I have, right, of just really wanting to be humane to people and be nice to people, like you said, because there's no reason to be at odds with your adversaries. It's an
Mhm.
adversarial um, job, however, in an adversarial system, but we're all supposed to be fighting for the greater good. We're all supposed to be fighting to make sure that the right outcome comes out of every situation. So I try to keep, relationships with individuals, with prosecutors, because of course that helps down the line in negotiating other cases that don't go to trial. If you have relationships with someone or a cordial relationship, right? So with all of that, just learning myself and people coming to me, sometimes the accolades that you receive
Mhm.
let you know, I wow, I really am doing a good job. And so once I began to accept the fact that other people were seeing things that I necessarily didn't see within myself yet or accept for myself, it did boost my um, uh, how do you say, it boosted me up, right? To feel like I deserve to be here. And then once the clientele started to shift, and also because of the office that I was in, that office was already established, right? So there would be people that would come in already, but they started to notice me as well, or I would appear on their cases and they noticed me. And, reputation is everything. So reputation precedes you, the clientele will come. And one of the biggest things for me when the high profile clients started coming in, especially clients that we would consider to be from our generation,
Mhm.
um, like the rap artists and all
Yeah.
the things that the people that we always would look at as we're growing up and enjoy the music that we would enjoy. So, the starstruck situations. So I had to get over that and put it behind me. And there were times that I would be sitting in a room with someone, and inside I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm sitting next to this person. But on the outside, I have to put on that poker face, put on that professional persona, and just like, hey, because you know what? You're here for a job. You're not here for this right now.
Mhm.
You are not that screaming fan right now. Right now, you are here to help this person, and they have given you the opportunity to help them. So let's get it right, and it's a work in progress always. I remember the first time I met Jay-Z. I was like, when I was on my way to the location to meet with him, I was like, oh man, you know, I'm about to meet Jigga. Crazy, just crazy. But when I got there, I was like, hello, Mr. Carter, how are you? We're here to do a job. And same thing with DMX. Murray called me into his office one day, and because we represented Earl from before everybody knew who he was, but everybody knew who he was. We started back in 1998, and Murray called me into his office and said, "Listen, I need you to go down to criminal court. Some guy got arrested, DMZ, DMR," and I was like, "DMX, Murray?" He said, "Yes." I said, "DMX," and he said, "Yes," and I was like, "Oh my God, okay." I had to take a deep breath, and then I went on to court. He was just a beautiful human being, and so down to earth and so real. And it was like talking to my brother. And I went in and I did my job. I did my thing. And as you know, we developed a beautiful relationship with him and Tashira throughout the years. So it was great. But dealing with individuals like that also helped me to deal with other individuals of celebrityhood, and
Mhm.
to again just remember everybody is human. I know who they are out in the media, but they are human beings, and they're now in a situation that needs to be dealt with, and they don't need all of that rah rah stuff going on when a bad situation happens. And so you have to remember that as well. So dealing with celebrity clients and then having to deal with the media, yes, that is an ordeal because you don't want to say the wrong thing to the media. You
Mhm.
want to a lot of times work with their PR people as well. And sometimes you have to kind of reel them in too because they might want to just put everything out there, and we don't want all of that. So it's working with individuals, it's knowing what to say and what not to say. And just like we tell our clients, don't speak without your attorney present. Don't speak. Just keep your mouth shut. Don't make any statements. That applies to the attorneys at times as well. Uh, you can't always say everything that you are thinking, and sometimes you do have to take a step back and just really think about it before you speak. And I remember our parents would tell us that as children, think before you speak. And I had a very rude awakening.
Mm-hmm.
My first media experience was with a case that was not with a celebrity person, but it was a press case because it was a homicide, and in the community, and so it did receive newsworthy attention. And set of circumstances, it was a lot, and I'm not going to go into the facts and everything else. But what I will say is that when the jury returned the verdict, and they go down the list of charges, and they murder in the second degree, not guilty, and I was like, okay, based on how the evidence came out, that's what I would expect. And then they got to manslaughter in first degree, not guilty, and my head kind of popped up a little bit, and I was like, oh, all right, we're on a roll. And then the last charge, manslaughter in the second degree, not guilty. I was a little surprised at that because I thought, they're going to come back on the man too. So I looked, I made some faces like, what? But then the media was outside, and I was still very young in the game. And, the people were questioning me, asking me, oh, how do you feel about the verdict, this and that? And I remember saying to them, well, I was a little surprised at the verdict. Girl, the next day, defense attorney shocked at verdict. Murray called. That was splattered all over the newspaper. Murray called me. What did you say to the media? Don't you ever talk to the media like that? And that was the last time I ever spoke to the media like that. So it was a rude awakening. It was a learning experience, but it taught me a lesson, right? And I learned how to speak to the media. And sometimes you can't say exactly what you're thinking because the media has a job to do as well, and they're going to put a spin on what they need to get the reading, the public to read what they're putting out there.
Right.
Yeah.
So besides that one faux pas that never happened again, that media experience has allowed you to segue into being this legal commentator, having numerous appearances on court TV to speak on high profile in the news cases. How did that come about for you?
That has really been a blessing as well, which I enjoy so much. So Court TV used to have studios here in New York County, and they would have attorneys come on as guests to commentate on different cases. So I was asked maybe early 2000s, I was asked to come down, and because they were always looking for attorneys, fresh faces to come in and join the cast as guests. So I was asked one day to come down. I went down, and they liked me. I enjoyed it, and they continued to ask me to come back. And I did it for quite some time. And then the studios moved to Atlanta, and so my court TV days stopped for a little while, and but I still had friends there and people that I knew. And when the Harvey Weinstein trial began, they came back to New York and they were on location. And I got a phone call asking me if I was interested in coming down to commentate about what was happening with the case. And I did. And it has continued on from there. But being on Court TV also allowed other networks, I guess, at times to see me, other people to see me and recommend me for different things. And then also with cases being in the media, I have been interviewed by, news reporters for different things. New York One, Dean Meminger has interviewed me for a number of different things. So I've had that media outlet as well, but primarily Court TV. And I love it there. So it's a wonderful experience because it does allow me to see how courtrooms operate all over the country, and sometimes very different from how they operate here. So it's a learning experience that I enjoy, and it also gives me a chance to have just that camaraderie with other attorneys from around the country. So that's a great experience too.
So, cameras in the courtroom has become just a prevalent thing. The average person gets to be kind of brought into court proceedings, like the George Floyd murder case. People were able to watch from beginning all the way to the delivery of the verdict. Do you think that, and then we have all of these TV shows, the Law and Order, all of this, right? So, do you think that this kind of explosion in terms of the presentation of criminal cases more in the public's realm and sphere impacts what you actually do in the courtroom, whether it's jurors thinking this is about to be like a TV show, something that they've seen on TV? Are you seeing kind of like like the flow into your day to day?
Well, the one thing that I can say is that anytime cameras are in the courtroom, it's it's a double-edged sword, right?
Mm.
For self-serving purposes, you might enjoy the cameras being there, but it is a concern because the witnesses, the jury pool, if they know that cameras are going to be in the courtroom, it's either going to upset them, make them nervous because they don't want to be seen, or it could make them embellish some of the things that they're
Mm.
saying. To it can just cameras can change people, and so because cameras they are allowed in the courtroom, but they generally don't come in unless it is a profile case, a big case like the George Floyd situation that of course everyone knew about throughout the country. Um, but just the daily, day-to-day cases, if they are not newsworthy, the cameras are not there, and so it's not a concern. It's not a worry. But if it is a big case and the cameras are coming into the courtroom, yes, it makes things different. It heightens your nervousness for sure, because now you know that it's more than just the jury that you are speaking to. You're speaking to everyone else that's viewing these proceedings, and it can be very nerve wracking. Anytime the media is present, it's going to be nerve wracking. And but again, you know what your purpose is at the end of the day. You know what you're there for and what you have to do. And the best that you can do is be prepared and go in and give it your 100%. Anytime I have a case and it might not go my way, meaning I might not get the acquittal that I'm looking for or the right decision, because sometimes an acquittal is not necessarily the right decision, but maybe there's somewhere in between that I think is appropriate, for an outcome. But no matter what it is, no matter what that outcome is, as long as I know I was prepared and I gave it my 100%, then I can sleep at night. Even if I'm not happy with the outcome, I can sleep at night because I'm not going to kick myself because I know I did all that I could do. Now, if I were to go in there and I wasn't prepared and then it was a bad outcome, oh yeah, I'm going to be kicking myself all the way down the road because I know that I could have made a difference in a different way. So I never allow myself to be in that position because I want to be able to sleep at night knowing I did my job the way I was supposed to do it.
Speaking of sleeping at night, have you ever had a situation? Because that used to be asked of me as a criminal defense attorney that you're representing potentially guilty persons, and do you have like a moral dilemma about that?
Mm-hmm.
How have you kind of reconciled around that thought?
And we get those questions all the time. How could you, until something happens to someone in their family and they need help for whatever the situation might be, right? But at the end of the day, my answer to that question is we are protecting people's rights. I'm not the one who makes the decision about guilt or non-guilt. The jury makes that decision based upon everything that has been laid out before them. Everyone has a right to a trial. Everyone has a right to their day in court, but everyone has a right to be defended. And that's what our Constitution is all about. And that's what we are doing. We are upholding the Constitution. We are making sure that the person receives a fair trial. And that's it. The prosecutor says they have a case. Let them prove the case, because that's what our country, that's what our system says they are required to do. And the person who stands before them as the defendant, as the accused, has a right to have that laid out before them. And they have a right to have their rights protected, because that's what we stand for. So that's what we're doing as defense attorneys. We are ensuring that all of our rights are protected. So when you ask me how is it that I can represent someone accused of a crime, our system says that everyone is innocent until proven guilty. So I stand beside them to represent them and make sure that their rights are protected and that they receive a fair trial. And if they are in fact proven guilty, then so be it. That's what it is, and they will be sentenced accordingly.
Wow. Okay, well said. So in 2011, just shifting gears a little bit, you decide to kind of, you know, forge your own path in a way, moving away from being under the tutelage of Murray after you've already established yourself obviously for quite some time. And you and another dear friend, Stacy Richmond, decide to partner together and form Richmond Hill Associates PLLC. So what was the genesis behind that for that?
You know, we're going to keep hearing his name all throughout this, but Murray Richmond has been, he was my mentor through all of this legal journey. And, you know, Murray has a great heart and Murray has great vision. And he raised us up and he saw great things in Stacy and I joining forces. And you know, Stacey and I we are great attorneys together. We're very different in certain aspects, and so it's kind of like the yin and the yang. And you know, with that, we work very well together. And Murray saw that vision and put it out there and said, "I think that you two would make a great team if you formed your own practice." And he wanted to make sure that we would be okay moving forward. And although he's still practicing, but he wanted us to, you know, just get out from under his wing and really just do our own thing. So he started it. He pushed us out basically again, pushing us out of the nest, and we formed uh, our organization or our firm, and it's been great because we do both bring different things to the table, and we do hold each other accountable for certain things, and certain things we're still working on, under the accountability situation. But yes, we work very well together, and we are a good team.
Well, you haven't stayed stagnant for sure. And one of the other things that you did is you became acting justice for the Village of Harriman Court for about 7 years. So tell me a little bit about that experience.
That was a very humbling experience as well. It gave me the opportunity to see what it's like for judges on the bench making the really tough decisions, and I a couple of things that took place with that. One, the first time I set bail on someone, I went home afterwards and I was so upset. And my daughter, who was younger at the time, said, "Mommy, you made the decision that you were supposed to make. Cut it out. You know, it is what it is." But I felt so bad that I set bail because I said, "I don't think this person's going to be able to make the bail." And the defense attorney in me was just, you know, this is awful. They're going to be sitting in jail. But, you know, being realistic and stepping outside of the box and looking at the facts, I made the right decision. So, but it allowed me to see how difficult it can be for judges when they have to make decisions like that. One of the other things, though, that I enjoyed was, you know, being in Orange County. It is a lot more diverse than it was then when I started in 2007, and of course, even then, more diverse than it had been when I first moved into that area. Um, but the first time I walked out from my little chambers on the side, because, you know, the village courts are very small, but I walked out and the officers said, "All rise," everybody rose. I had my robe on and I came out and, you know, went up on the bench and I was kind of fiddling around with some of the papers and I looked up and everyone was still standing. And I said, "Oh, that's on me. Have a seat, everybody." And, you know, feeling that sense of power, but also looking at all of the faces that were sitting before me that were not brown and black was was nice. I'm gonna say, you know, it was nice to not see only a sea of people that were brown and black that had gotten into trouble. It was nice to see this group of people that had to come before me, and I could see that some of them really didn't appreciate the fact that this black woman was sitting before them, getting ready to, you know, handle this matter in any way that I saw fit.
Mm.
And I enjoyed that very much. That yeah, I made it here. I belong here, and it's almost like the tables are turned situation, but of course very fair to everyone.
Mhm.
But it was
Mhm.
just it was very interesting to see the looks on some of the faces at times. I remember bypassing the line going into the courthouse and people stopping me or trying to stop me. Oh, no, 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 don't go in, you can't go in with your purse. The line is back there. And I'm just like, oh, I know. And then I would go inside, and then when they saw me, one woman was like, oh, like you saw her face. And I just, I nodded my head and I smiled because she was trying to be nice by saying, no, you can't go in there with your purse. She didn't know. But then when she saw who I was, she was a little embarrassed. But I told her, with my look, I told her there was no need to be embarrassed.
Mhm.
But yeah. But in my head, I was like, because yeah, I am that chick. So that was a great experience for me because then again that was something that allowed me to recognize within myself that what, you have achieved another status. You have the right to be here. You
Mm.
worked hard to get here, and people recognized that I belong there. And so it's a good feeling when you have yet another step, moving up this ladder, um, that people want you to be there. They see you in certain positions. They recommend you for certain things because they believe in you. And when people, not that you should have to have other people out there pushing you forward, but it is helpful when other
Mhm.
people see in you what you don't see in yourself sometimes, because then it allows you to see what other people see.
For sure. Well, all the accolades are well deserved. You definitely are someone who is shifting in the criminal justice space, from novice attorney to acting justice. But one of the things that you do is you do lift others, sharing the wealth of knowledge that you've gained. So you are a frequent teacher and in CLE, which are continuing legal education classes, and you also speak to this leadership group at Princeton University of young women
Yeah.
leaders. So why is it important for you to kind of pour into the next generation of the people coming behind you?
It's very important to let our young people know that we are strong, we are smart, we are equal to everyone out here and in these prominent positions. And they just need to know that they can do it. That what they're fighting for, what they're learning in school is important. And they should take advantage of the different things that are available to them to help them get to the next level. And unfortunately, there's so much that we see in the media and the way we are portrayed. Um, and our young children, we don't want, a cycle to continue where they think that this is what African Americans are, this is what Black and Brown people are. So it's important for me to give back to our youth so that they understand that they can move forward and they can become successful. And a lot of times, sometimes more often than not, our youth are in homes where they don't have full support. My
Mm-hmm.
mom was my biggest fan, my mentor, my everything, and my mom made sure that I was where I was supposed to be every time. And if I wasn't there, she was there to do what I needed to be doing. Like she just made things happen. And some children don't have that. So if I can reach back to someone, extend my hand down to pull someone up to let them know that it doesn't have to be a parent. It doesn't have to be someone that's in your home. Other people can help you too, and you just need to be open to that
Mm-hmm.
help. The help is there, and you can succeed. So I like to talk to the young girls, especially because they see me and I look like them, and it lets them know that wow, if she can do it, I can do it too. So I like to speak to them. I speak to the young ladies at Princeton when I've been invited. I speak to girls in another program. I have a mentee right now that through the
Okay.
I Mentor program that I've been dealing with since she was in her senior year in high school. Now she's in her freshman year in college, and we keep in touch with each other. You know, we FaceTime, we text when she's home on break. We go to dinner, and we just catch up. And she has a foundation at home, but sometimes she just needs that other outlet. And we just
Mm-hmm.
talk about, we talked about her personal statement before she went away. I read it over. I made some edits to it. It's just being that extra set of eyes for people, or just sometimes a sounding board or someone to talk to, because not everyone has that in their initial close knit circle. So I had people who looked out for me when I was coming up, and and I was blessed to have that. I was blessed to have the things that were put in front of me, and around me, and I didn't have to have that. And so it truly was a blessing. And so I try to give back whenever I can.
Renee, I stand for you. I'm one of your biggest fans as well. And I thank you so, so much for taking the time today to talk to me about your journey, give us such nuggets of wisdom, everything that you've gone through. And like you said, not everyone has a support system. And I know that for someone who's listening to your story today, they'll be inspired and they'll be, influenced in a way that's going to kind of fortify them as they go through their own journey. You're someone that I consider a destiny helper. So for all of those people that you've touched along the way, we're so grateful that you are lifting others as you shift. Thank you again. Appreciate you so, so very much.
Thank you so very much for having me again. I just love this for you, and you are a blessing to everyone that you touch, truly. And everyone who's listening to this podcast, I know that they will be fulfilled, and they should come back and listen to everyone else that you bring on, because I think this is going to be a phenomenal journey, and they will get something out of every single broadcast. So thank you for
Thank you,
having
thank you.
me.
And if someone unfortunately gets into a little bit of trouble and wants to have the representation of Renee C. Hill Esquire, where can they find you?
So they can find me. Phone number is 718-892-8588. I am on Instagram at, I believe it's Renee underscore C underscore Hill ESQ, and website renee-hill.com. You'll get to me through one of those ways.
All right. Thank you again. Love you much.
Love you. Thank you so much.